Okay. Looks like we've got a group here for Road and Bridge, so what do you want to take care of first, Lance?
Well, let's just talk about the significant industrial user permit. That's right, first thing.
It looks like all the changes were made that we talked about last week.
Yeah, I'd make a motion that we adopt it.
Adopted as a general blank permit.
Okay, there's a motion to adopt the new industrial waste user permit. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, after a lot of work and some real thought, I think we've got a really good permit here. So thank you, Lance.
Okay.
Appreciate
I will,
Tremendous amount of work you put into this.
I will get, the version done up for any round packing, and I'll also send a blank copy over to Ursula and have them start looking at it, so.
Okay. Great. Glad to have that done.
Could we, I don't know who to send it to, but along with the request that the city review that and include the city of Idaho Falls, review that, and include that in their bidding process.
I can send it to Chris Frederickson,
I'd probably send it to Carrie too.
Carrie Beeman.
Yeah, just so they have it and know that if it's gonna be a significant industrial user for the,
Is there any way we can have them notify us that that's been in their approval? I'd like to see them included in their approval process. You know, just the way they do with EQ and all the others.
I can request that from Carrie, but I'm
Yeah.
not sure I can turn it off.
I would just say in the email, we'd like to have this as part of the permit approval process if it's a commercial or industrial project. And just see what they say.
Okay.
We can go from there.
Okay, it looks like next is discuss the placement of road closure signs.
So I didn't place this on the agenda, so I'm not sure what exactly.
What John did.
That would be me. After our discussions last week regarding the grooming trail signs and the when and who puts what where, Craig said it would probably be just far less complicated if when Road and Bridge puts up a road closed sign, because it's the time they're closing the road, that they put up the groomed trail sign at the same time. He does want to check and make sure that all of those signs say tracked vehicles only beyond beyond this point. And I don't know if we have different signs for different places.
I think there are different signs, and it talks about snowmobiles only or groomed snowmobile trail or something like that. We can check all of them and make sure they're consistent. And you want them to just say no vehicles except tracked vehicles beyond this point?
Right. Yep, however you word that, but he says there's no reason not to put them up when the road's closed, when you close the road, because that's when the road's closed and they're not supposed to be past it with anything that's doesn't fit the ordinance for passing the closed roads. So anyway, Craig apologized for any confusion over the road sign stuff, and says if your guys need help when you get a rush to put a bunch of those up, let him know and he can send guys out to do it, get them all up on the same time period. But there's really no sense in having two different crews go to the same intersection to put up different signs on the same day.
Not on the same day, and if we're gonna put them up on the same day, then yeah, that's easy enough to do.
Seems like that'd be easiest, so thank you.
With that, we'll just, next year, yeah, when we tell you we're gonna need to close the roads, those will go up, so.
Good deal.
Next, it looks like the Red Rock.
Red Rock Estates Division 5, First Amended Development Agreement, Plat.
Have you looked at that, Roger? Are you okay with that?
Just standard agreement.
Okay, you have any concern with that? John, you probably don't see it, but it's the Red Rock Estates Division 5.
So this is the lot that used to be the LDS church site, but they've replatted it into individual lots and there's I can't remember how many lots there are, but there's quite a few in there.
Did they ever get the paving on that school crossing? You know, how he's gonna asphalt?
So he got some asphalt out to the road. I'm not sure if he got it on the south side of the road,
I don't think he got it all the way done. He
but I
did have
think he
some.
got some of it done.
It's cold too quick.
Yeah.
But he did get some of it done.
Well, signatures on 2 pages.
2 pages. Yeah. And then the development agreement.
So I was told that we plowed Eagle Pass Road.
We did not plow Eagle Pass Road. The windmill people plowed Eagle
I
Pass.
thought we had an understanding with them that it wasn't to be plowed after December 15th.
So the December 15th was backed off at least a week. But they weren't able to get out of there by December 15th, and so I agreed to let them go at least a week after that. But they plowed it in December and that was, they just did it. They didn't have a date on the agreement or anything, so.
Yeah, because I remember saying when we had that discussion that we need to put a kind of a final date. Remember, not give them a carte blanche after.
Well, and so on the agreement that was signed, it was December 15th, and I agreed to do it one more week than that.
Did they
But-
plow it? I was told they plowed it the last couple of days.
I don't know if it was plowed in the last couple of days. This is the first I've heard about it.
That's what I was told. Would you find out? And I assume we're not gonna allow that all winter long. Is that correct?
I don't want to allow it. But if they've got the equipment up there, I don't know how we stop it.
From getting down.
Yeah,
Are they trying to get their equipment out?
I'm not sure if if it's the last couple days in December, they were still trying to get equipment up there the week of the 15th, and the week after that, they were supposed to be coming out. But that was the last I heard.
Did you find out on that? And I don't know how the other commissioners feel, but that road is closed. And I think at the very least, there needs to be a discussion before they just pull in and plow it.
But I think they have the equipment already in there. They're not going, but they also have a key to the gate. So,
Well, I still think we need we need to know.
yeah,
I was told it was plowed just a day or two ago.
I'll get a hold of the windmill people and ask them. So,
Yeah, I mean, I just think it goes beyond what we have told all the other landowners in there when we locked that gate and closed it for the winter. I'm not sure why
But we also get in and plow to get cows out when they're left in there and things like that, so I don't know how this would be a lot different,
yeah,
you know? Except we plow to get the cows out, and these guys plow to get their own equipment out. But they also have an agreement, they have to fix the road if they mess it up too. Cause they've got heavier equipment.
I'll get a hold of Patrick Tracy and ask what's going on.
yeah, I thought that we were pretty clear that, yeah, we're gonna extend it, but we weren't gonna make it plow anytime all winter, you know?
Yeah, that was
That
never
was
part
never
of the
the
understanding.
understanding, yeah. Okay.
that's all that's directly on the agenda. There's a few other things I wanna kind of talk about. The first is the LILB program, the bridge program. They had a round 5 and they have put in our bridge 20750 in that. That's the one on 65th South over the Butte Arm Canal, there by 15th West. And so that is the 5th bridge out of the 6 that we applied for. So I think we've done pretty good, and we'll probably see the agreements and stuff start happening on that one fairly soon. Solid waste. Blair and I met with some gentlemen, one of which is the kind of executive director of Southern Idaho Solid Waste. And he has a kind of a side business that they're looking at the diversion of waste from kind of a recycling aspect, but looking at actual municipal solid waste and putting it through a process called thermal hydrolysis and utilizing that as a biomass for a digester system. And so they want to partner with Bonneville County in order to apply for grants to do a feasibility study. They're not asking for us to put up forth any money at this point in time, but they would like to have us as a partner in the concept idea of using this diversion of waste to do a different process to go to the end product is to generate through, basically generate natural gas and sell that as a byproduct. So that is something that we talked with them. I don't know how the commissioners would feel towards something like that. I personally would like to get the documents that they sent us as far as how the terminology works as partner to Scott or Weston and just let them look at it. But as far as having these 2 individuals through this other company apply for grants that may be able to divert a good portion of our waste stream and save a lot of airspace in Peterson Hill landfill, I think that it's worth signing up for, not financially, but conceptually, and saying, yeah, if you can find some grants to try to go after this and lose potentially 30 or 40% of our garbage in Peterson landfill over time, it could save us a lot of money by not having to build cells as fast.
Haven't you looked into this before, Roger?
Only about 3 times.
This is a different concept though.
Every one of them is different. We looked at the one up in Du Bois,
Yeah.
and we looked at the one up in Rexburg. I think we looked at 2 in Du Bois, 2 or 3 different companies, but it's worth looking at.
Well, where there's no financial investment,
Yeah,
they just need to partner with a municipality in order to apply for these 2 or 3 different grants. One of them is something, air initiative, and they have to be partnered with that.
where would they house the facility?
Well, and that's, I mean,
They don't know.
we're way away.
This
from
is
that.
to get basically a planning feasibility study to see whether the concept can work here in this area, let alone knowing where that facility would be. And that's, I share some of the same concerns as where would it sit? What would the footprint look like? Who would own it? Who would operate it? And how would you handle the waste coming in and the waste that's not used? How would you handle it coming back? So there's a devil's in the details here.
Oh, yeah.
But concept wise, if they're asking for us to just be a municipal partner, and that's my, and I'm not being a lawyer, but when I look at partner, I start thinking financials and dollars, and that's, I don't wanna tie us down financially at all. And that's why I think sending the documentation to Scott or Weston is like, could the wording be different to not tie us up potentially financially later on?
Any of us were taking a look at it.
Yeah.
You never know when they're gonna come through. You just hate to spend a lot of time and energy, you know.
Well,
Yeah.
And one good thing about that is we are not going to put our time into it, they are.
You say it's the director down there that's involved. in
Nate
the outside
Francisco.
company.
Yeah,
So a little bit of background. So Josh Bartlemay used to be the director of Southern Idaho Solid Waste, and he was there when I started working for Bonneville County. So I've got a working association with both of these gentlemen through the Idaho Solid Waste Association. So both of the, and Nate Francisco, who is the director now, was Josh's environmental guy when Josh was there. So they've worked together over the past 15 to 20 years. So they've just, Southern Idaho Solid Waste is trying to come up with a type of technology to deal with their animals, the amount of animals and the organics that are getting it. So this is all driven by the organics, the grass and the food and so you put in a dirty MRF basically, and the dirty MRF does a separation up front. You put in a bag breaker, so it breaks the bags open so that you can utilize 100% of the trash, the throughput. And then this goes through a concept of discs and screens and stuff like that, and all your bulky material ends up going back into the transfer station, but these organics break out and fall through, and then it goes through this process, and during that time, they pull out as much of the recycling metals like the ferrous and non-ferrous, and that's tried to be done before, but also afterwards, then they take the material that's left and they screen that again and pull out the rest of the metals and that kind of stuff. The final product ends up going into a digester.
Good luck.
So there, I mean, dirty MRF's been around forever. That's not a new concept, so. But, you know, if anybody can pull this off, these two gentlemen they've got the history with solid waste, and they're already looking at this type of technology already in their own facilities. So they're reaching out to see if anyone else is interested in this. They've met with the DOE and INL already. They're going to meet with them again this Friday. So the DOE and the INL is involved in this as well, but they need this. They need to be able to apply for these grants so that they can do the feasibility studies to make sure that this is a good fit. And they're not asking us to partner. They're not anything. They just want to do the feasibility studies, utilize some. The DOE has some pretty good grant opportunities, and so they just need to partner up with someone.
As long as we're not on the hook on the
Yeah.
application.
financially, yeah.
And when this gets down the road a ways, I mean, Lance and I talked about this a little bit. This might be a great opportunity for the county. Because they're looking at lots of different options. You can buy in, put up part of the money and get the return on the backside. I mean, there's a lot, they'll own it, they'll run it, somebody else will privately fund it. It doesn't have to be a municipal facility. They just need someone interested in the feasibility part of this to get those, the ability. And the air quality grant is the one that they need. The rest of them, they can do on the private side, but the air.
The Gem State Air Quality Initiative.
Yeah, that's the one.
Well, and these two gentlemen are also talking with the Department of Energy and with the site out there and trying to line up some other potential pilot projects.
Yeah, and funding.
Department of
They
Energy.
The DOE has big grant, federal money, available for this kind of stuff that they set aside. DEQ actually has a grant out. Had it out last year and they'll have it out again this year. That is for recycling, it's that recycling right now is a big thing. And they're starting to figure out that this organics takes up a lot of your space, so that if they can separate this out, create a renewable energy. Your ability to create renewable energy with organics is a lot easier. And they're more readily available than trying to squeeze a thimble full of oil out of a plastic bottle. So in recycling, in a whole, they're starting to look at these products and figure out, we can get a lot more bang for our buck from this than we were from this. So that's why the plastic thing's starting to be a hard product to sell. Because it's harder to derive that oil from a piece of plastic. Now, Republic Services has stepped up right now. And they're starting to recycle all this plastic and turn it into a chip. And they're selling that to foreign countries who are recycling it and using it to build other plastic products with. So they've changed that direction and went a different direction with that plastic than what they used to. And this organic thing, the same thing. We're starting to look at this organic thing and said, organics make up 30 to 50% of your waste stream. So if you can go in and divert 50% of your waste stream, that's a big deal for us. So
Certainly worth looking into.
I mean, just for this part, yes, and as long as they're not, they told us yesterday, they're not looking for any finance, not.
And that's spelled out in the letter, but where I get with partner, that terminology means something to me, and that's what I
Right.
wanna make sure that we're
And-
not getting on.
And there again, for this greater air quality thing, why they've gotta be partnered with the municipality in order to be able to apply for that.
Well, you can report the results of that at Austin's retirement party. Since you.
Yeah, I told Lance, I said, it's not like they're gonna do this tomorrow.
I know.
And we've had a couple of college gentlemen coming. They came last spring, they came this summer, they came this fall. They've been doing, waste characterization study. And so they come in and they get so many bags of garbage, they take it out on the lawn, they spread it out, and they characterize it. So part of what this feasibility study is that going in and studying the waste and seeing how much of that is actual organics and how much is bulky and whatever.
My idea of a fun job.
Did it ever get to where they could repair that rain shield or finish it
No,
off?
not yet. No, we gained snow, not went away. But they're on the hook, they're waiting second that
Your
fair's
leach
out
rate
there.
is not going up.
No, it's not affecting
That portion.
that part of it. What's happened is the sandbags moved down and so it's
If
not,
the snow isn't there,
it's
the
not.
rain shield could puff up and blow away.
Yeah.
But with the snow on it, it stays in place. It's just the anchoring system. It'll be a lot more intensive to try to get in and repair if we start losing snow.
What are your leachate flows right now?
We're still at that 3.5 gallon per minute.
It's pretty low.
Which is
What does that do for their engineering for adding another leachate pond?
right now, it's.
We're on hold for right
we're
now.
good, yeah.
And we basically told DEQ that we're gonna look at this over the winter time and see what happens in the leachate pond. And we don't think with the rain shield in place, the leachate is going to be a problem, and so the existing pond should be sufficient.
Probably would take you guys reworking some numbers with that little spreadsheet we have, the projections. We probably need to update that with some of the winterized equipment, winter equipment. And the schedule of those projects to see where we're gonna be. Cause I'm not 100% sure we're gonna need to go to judicial confirmation.
If,
that-
if we don't have to do another pond, I mean, that helps a ton.
Yeah, but we can do the what ifs and see where we are.
Yeah.
The other thing we can do, so right now we're in the middle of the public comment for the permit to construct the flare. we have 2 years, once that's finalized, to be in some sort of construction phase, and I'm not sure, I haven't been able to pin Travis Pyle down on what they consider construction phase. But we have 2 years in order and not lose our permit as long as we're in some sort of construction
Can you guys
phase.
have those numbers by next road bridge, and we can get Ron in here?
Well, Ron has that spreadsheet, and so if Ron can send me what he has, we can maybe rework it, but I don't know by
Well, I'd like,
next Wednesday.
because I'd like us to be involved in projections, so we know what we're gonna do on that.
Do you wanna have him come in next Wednesday then and start looking at those numbers together then?
Yeah, just, it kind of saves time,
Yeah.
you know, because then we understand it. Yeah. We've got, you know, we gotta keep an eye on that judicial confirmation, and I'm starting to think we may not need it.
Well, and that's it, and I guess put a finish to my story, so. Right now. Our emissions actually reduced in our tier 2 testing. So
The methane.
in 2 years from now, when we get really close to that, my suggestion is we get them in here again. We only have to do tier 2 testing, official tier 2 testing every 5 years. But when we're getting close to being at that point, I say we bring those guys in, have them do the testing, and let's look at our emissions, because if we're still falling in those numbers, there's absolutely zero reason to put a flare.
Well, let's just.
So we could kick that, I guess we could kick that can down. We need to put the infrastructures in, because someday we're going to trigger that.
Right, but you know, when it comes in is what affects us.
Yeah.
That's what we, shouldn't be that complicated, but just walk through each of those, and we'll redo them and see where we go.
Okay, I'll get with Ron and see if he can come next week and we'll.
And all those things will just be scenarios, there's nothing like sketch.
Because they've changed 3 times since we did it before. Yeah.
They have, and they've changed because a lot of things have changed up there.
Right. Okay.
Anything else?
equipment, yeah.
Now, yeah, somewhere between Canada and here, stuck alongside the road.
Stuck in the snow somewhere.
Maybe somebody hijacked it and put it on a loader and they're utilizing it back east. I don't know.
Okay, is there anything else?
So you will see on our agenda for next week, and I copied you on the email, I've requested to terminate the snow removal agreement between Milwaukee County and Caribou County.
Saw that, I was surprised.
And the reason I say that is because of the wording of this agreement and how it is. If the Tri-County agreement is null and void, which I was told that very emphatically it was null and void, you shouldn't be referencing the the summer maintenance stays the same. And the summer maintenance of Bridge Creek and the 9 miles of road in the summertime shouldn't be part of the snow removal agreement at all.
Okay, but why terminate, why not modify?
Well, it doesn't say that we can modify it. It says we can terminate it with 60 days written notice. That's my option right now.
Are you getting this, John?
Now, I'm okay with paying the amount, and I can use this existing agreement and pay Caribou County for snow removal. I just don't want to be tied into the summer maintenance on a agreement they were insisting that was null and void.
Well, we need to make sure that Caribou County's aware of that.
Yeah.
Well, that's where the written.
Okay, so when we ended our discussion with Caribou County, it was Bryson saying, well, let's just go with the one we've got and we'll do a new one for next year and we'll just do what we're supposed to on this one. So that's why they had signed it. We signed it and sent it back to them. So my understanding is we're working on the last one that we had signed, and it's back and forth. And now what we are working on is the one that we'll do next year.
I just don't wanna be tied to the summer maintenance of Bridge Creek in this. I don't want it to be anything associated with it.
Well, I think,
Well-
and I don't know about the others, but I think we wanna be a little bit careful, you know, what we are doing with Caribou County too. Not
I
upset
agree.
the entire apple cart.
Yeah. And that's why in the agreement, the contract may be terminated with 60 days written notice. That's why I want to,
Why don't we just propose to them an amendment to the contract? So that this is still in force with the idea that you may not do it again next year.
be. And we can talk about that next week. It's on the agenda for next week, and if we don't wanna write a termination notice, we can request a modification. We can do that next week. I wanted to.
Come up with a proposed modification that we could present to them instead of just
Terminate it.
talking about it and then working on it for a time. If you've got some modifications that'll work on what you wanna do,
Yeah.
we'll bring that forward.
And that's why I wanted to talk about it today before it's on as an action item.
Yeah,
Next
I
week.
don't think we wanna see termination of Caribou agreement on our agenda.
Okay,
No,
well, we can modify it then and modify the agenda, but I definitely wanna talk about it. And the way it's worded is a very bad scenario for Bonneville County.
Yeah, cause I don't think there'd be anything wrong with modifying a contract like that.
But probably just John will wanna have that discussion with Bryce.
Okay, can you modify?
I'd rather really not have a discussion with Bryce that ends up with us all thinking we're done with this for a year, and then us coming back the next week and say, no, not really, we want to modify it again. Let's try and get all the modifications worded correctly before we go back and talk to him about it. I thought Commissioner Thompson he says, we're gonna take care of the stuff up here that needs to be taken care of. We're not gonna leave people stranded just because there's not a piece of paper signed. I think he's proven to be more than willing, although sometimes employees are less willing than those who make decisions. But if there's language in there that shouldn't be in there, we need to take it out, but let's just not make it 14 or 15 attempts to get that language out.
Yeah. Okay. The next item I want to talk about is, I did meet with the Jefferson County Commissioners yesterday. They were not in a meeting where they could vote on anything, but the grant application they're on board with, providing 50% of the $20,000 requested by Burgess and Nyepel to prepare that grant application, but they can't officially say that until next Monday.
For the winch.
For the County Line Road, 145th North Bridge across the Snake River.
Okay.
So I request being able to sign this and get Burgess and Nyepel going forward with them on board. You said you were on board if Jefferson County was on board, but they can't officially say that until next Monday when they meet. But with the limited time frame Burgess and Nyepel has to do this, I would request being able to sign this myself and get it to Burgess and Nyepel and get them going on the application.
But, we haven't got it on as an action item either, do we?
No, we don't have it on as an action item. Last week it was on as an action item, but you said we're on board if Jefferson County is on board. So what this does is, we're not, the commissioners aren't signing this as a contract, I'm signing it to get them going on the application process for this bridge application. That's why it's not as on as action item, because I'm signing it, not you.
Are you okay with that? Just keep it moving.
Okay.
I had another question though, when we're speaking of that county line road up there by Ryrie. Why does it take so long to engineer that for just a rebuild? I mean, isn't there a possible way of getting that as a project this summer?
Because of the length of it, I think it's gonna be hard to get everything done in the time frame that you're talking about.
Have you talked to anybody yet?
I've sent out 2 requests for proposals. But part of that proposal is for a geotechnical investigation. They're not gonna be able to do that with snow on the ground.
What does that do? What is geotechnical?
Geotechnical, they'll go out and take core samples and see what's underneath some of it.
So some of it you may not have to rebuild the base. I thought you were just gonna take it all down, just put new base in.
I would like to avoid just doing everything if we don't have to do everything. I would like to not spend all that money to just do it, just to do it.
Okay, but that's why I was curious why it would take so long.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Next week, I'll also have an amendment to the agreement with Keller Associates on Bear Creek Road. There's been a lot of modifications based on meeting up there on site. We took a lot of Shannon and Wilson's design out of phase 1 and modified things, but this will be, we'll talk about it next week. I just wanted to make sure that it was, I can send this to you in advance, but it changes the figures and how this goes together. And that is preventing me from getting a good cost estimate for the road repairs on that road. So, but we'll talk about it as an amendment to the contract, change things around a little bit. Hopefully it will end up with a lot better overall plan.
Okay.
And I think Micah wanted to talk about 45th East a little bit, so.
Come up and join us. Thank you. Let's wait for Roger to come back in. Did you have something, Austin?
No, I was just pulling this up for my guess, so.
Okay. Ben, did you have anything that?
Oh, just a couple things, one thing. Lance and Dave were getting the plows up there in Valley, did a great job. We had a lot of good comments, thanks and everything on my Facebook page. So it was very helpful. And even though it snowed right after that.
Always.
It just made everything so much better, you know, so anyway, really appreciate that. And I managed to catch them out there, it's been my policy as a general contractor to tip my guys when they come out, like sheep rock, you know, stalkers and all those guys that work hard. So hopefully it's okay if I give them a tip. It goes a long way.
I don't think we can stop you from doing that. I'll bet they really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And then also, we're having our, next Monday night, we're having our HOA officer elections
Oh,
for Great Valley. So, after that happens, I think we'll decide which way we're gonna go if we find the final annexation. So,
The bad news is I hear they tip more in Berkeley Parks.
Depends on what you tell.
Road and Bridge has done a really good job keeping up with the snow and plowing.
Well, that's all I got, thanks, appreciate it.
Who does Sunnyside Road from the Maverick? East up to the landfill? Don't we do that?
So not from Maverick, we start basically, past where the city of Ammon's shop is
Tracks, basically.
and go up.
So we do from the tracks west to the road.
Yeah, cause we drove up to try to look at the landfill, but it was all foggy. Just see how much it's drifting and stuff, and it was pretty rough going until we got to that subdivision. There was a Fox Landing,
Exciting.
and then, boy, I don't even think they had plowed it between tracks and Fox Landing. But the road was great, everything beyond that.
We do from the tracks all the way out, so
But sometimes they come across that upper road there.
60th.
Yeah, they come out
So
60.
they
come
just
out
hadn't
and
hadn't been down.
Hadn't been down that other way.
Darn, I was gonna blame Emmett.
Sorry.
I tried.
Yeah.
He was gonna give you a tip, but
What'd you have for us, Mike?
So if you wouldn't mind pulling up the intersection of 45th and Sunnyside. We've got a little bit of a problem we got ourselves into. So that northwest corner there, it should be, what color is the Ammon color?
Pink.
Pink, it should be pink. But, cause it's annexed into the city. Well, come to find out, when we sent our annexation, request to the state. They said that there is a parcel between Rocking R and that parcel in the corner. If you go ahead and click in the road there, it doesn't pull up anything.
Zoom out a little bit, sort of where we are.
Yeah,
This is Sunnyside and 45th.
yeah, Crowley and Sunnyside there. And so when we annexed it, we knew that we had the right side, that northeast corner, that's the Rocking R subdivision. And we assumed that their legal description went to the middle of 45th Street. And at the same time, on the northwest corner, we assumed their legal description also went to the middle of 45th Street. Well, lo and behold, there is a parcel right there between those two subdivisions that is owned by Bonneville County. And so the state came back to us and said, well, you did everything right, except for this is not contiguous. And so the state has given us basically two options to cure it. Option one is we would annex the parcel, which would mean we'd need to acquire it from Bonneville County and annex that parcel between the two. Or option two, we de-annex it. And which, we could go either way, quite frankly, but the reason I'm here today is to see if you all are interested in transferring that right of way parcel to the city. So that we could keep that northwest corner in the city of Ammon.
Is Ammon on the west side of that also?
Well, the pink is Ammon, so it's a little bit confusing. Go ahead and zoom out, Austin. The pink is all city of Ammon. And so there's that pocket where it says Amy Ann Estates. That's all county.
We
And
can annex that too.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'd love to.
I know a few people that work for me that would be much appreciative of that.
Is that deeded to us or prescriptive?
Well, we'd have to do the title work on it to find out how, because we didn't know it was even there. And so
So the-
right now it does not show up as a parcel. My guess is it's probably prescriptive or it's been parceled off through plats over the last 100 years.
So right there, 45th East, through that portion, I believe most of that was prescriptive. Because Amy Ann Estates didn't go all the way to 45th East. And nothing else had been platted through there.
Yeah,
So can we deed the prescriptive? That's my question.
we'd have to do a legal description and create a parcel. And then just go through the title process like usual. But I'd have to hire a surveyor to put together a legal description.
We'd have to check with our legal counsel to see if you can deed it.
Yeah,
Even if you create a parcel out of it.
so you're saying it doesn't show up as a parcel and it's a north-south strip along 45th East?
Yep.
Okay,
And, I mean, what we're after is contiguity, just connecting the two parcels, but I don't think, and I have to take this back to the city council to make sure, but I don't think we'd be opposed to annexing that whole length of 45th from, Sunnyside all the way to 21st Street.
Yeah, but you can't grab the ones where you're not on at least one side of it.
Yeah,
I mean, that's, because then you do that strip.
that's right. Yeah, and I guess we'd only be interested in what we could get. Yeah.
So why are they contiguous? Because you come up around,
Go ahead and scroll out again and you'll see that northwest corner of Crowley and Sunnyside is not close enough to the most western parcel there. It's just disconnected by the roadway there.
well, you have it connected to the north.
yeah, back through to the north, you're contiguous that way.
No, because it's just can you highlight the parcel we're talking about?
Just
Yeah.
that,
It's just that one, yep. It's just that parcel.
So that's the one you want,
Oh.
said you annexed?
That's the one we annexed.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
that's the one.
That's where it's got that little drink shed. on the
Okay.
corner. Yeah.
Now I understand what you're talking
Okay,
about.
that's
Sorry.
why I was lost.
Yeah, that's it. Just that one little parcel.
And so that way you could annex the road.
Yeah.
That's, I'd like to see you get the rest of it.
Yeah,
The two, and there's just looks like a couple of parcels there that if you got, it would make you.
Zoom back out, why, when you annexed, why didn't you go to the middle of the road?
well, that's what we thought we were doing.
Even,
but their legals don't go to the middle of the road.
That's right. So the right side there, that's that kind of triangle piece. That's what we call the Rocking R subdivision.
and
And
so, your annexation, would that come back in and take to the middle of the road to correct it? And let,
no,
Take all of it.
it would take all of it.
Yeah,
which you
which
can't
is
do.
fine,
Yeah,
because they're contiguous to it.
Yeah.
yeah,
And you could, well, with the same thing, you could take all of 45th East to the north side of that kind of.
The Rocking R, yeah.
Rocking R, yeah.
Mhm. And that'd be great.
What are the pieces in between? I'd like just a little bit. to
Just
the
a house,
north.
They're unplatted parcels, I believe.
Yeah,
platted homes.
Just homesteads, yeah. But I don't think there's not another platted parcel out there until you get to the city of Hammond.
yeah, right there at Mason.
See, because that's one of those projects that we are wondering if Hammond would put in jointly for what portion or what fund is that, John?
STB, well, or you're talking about the,
PMPO, urban, SDPG.
but I think the other one is that state one that they did, what's that one? They did just the extra 50
Oh,
million.
that was strategic initiatives.
Strategic
initiatives,
initiatives
yeah,
that we
that'd
were
be a good one.
talking about, it might be a good strategic
Good idea.
initiative project going on together.
Yeah, we'll probably get the top ranked project this time and not get funded. Still a mystery there.
No, it's not. You know what happened?
Oh, do you know?
They got the votes.
Oh,
And Daryl works for the city of Meadow Falls,
is that what happened?
probably.
Yeah.
Speculate.
Well, the rest of the story behind it, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know how
I think,
the city of Iona project got there.
yeah. We'll get it. It'll just take a little longer.
but John, didn't you say there was like a $5 million limit on that?
That's
$5 million limit on the funds.
Initiatives money.
No, that's the BMPO money there.
Because we were curious about a joint project to go all the way to First Street, if that would make them too big to get funded.
through the STP fund program, it would.
Would be too large.
And that's through initiatives grant, then yeah, you could probably do something like that.
Yeah,
But
that'd be a good
not
project.
through STP urban.
It does make sense to have at least that section of 45th in the city van. We already have infrastructure, water, sewer, all kinds of stuff, and
You can get the developer to build it.
and that developer there on the corner, that's Rockwell, and they are expanding at least their half of that arterial. They're moving the poles. They are, even though they said they weren't. They are gonna move.
We think the school is gonna move too, but
That's great.
Have not heard anything back from the school district, so.
John, you might get a call from Craig Lawrence. He seems to have picked up the talking points of District 93 out there.
Oh, really?
So it sounds like, I guess we just need to talk to legal counsel about if we can deed the prescriptive. Right?
Well, if it's prescriptive, can't you just come in and do under annexation if we can't deed it?
I think so.
Let's-
I mean, you'd have to do a legal description.
Yeah.
That'd have to go along with it. As long as it all closes, yeah.
But if it's not owned by us, they should just be able to annex
Just be
it.
able to annex it if it's prescriptive, and that's.
So that's what we need to find out, is if it's prescriptive or
I believe it is.
owned, but I'm pretty sure it's prescriptive, because if we owned it, it should have a parcel over top of it.
Yeah.
So will you check with Trish?
Yeah, I'll ask, I can ask Trish and I'll
That'd
get
be
back
great.
with you on that.
Okay. Do you want to pick it up again next week? What do you guys think?
What do you mean?
I'm happy to come
I
back to
think
this
we're-
meeting.
Just do it.
I think do it, yeah.
Based on what I
Agreed.
find,
Yeah.
I'll just let you
He
know
finds
that
out
if
you
we
can do
need to
it.
do a legal to deed it, or if you just need to annex it, we
Okay.
can go that route, so.
Okay, that sounds good.
But then also talk to Ann, whoever, to the council or whatever, about putting a joint project in.
And we don't know when, if they're going to have another round of strategic initiatives.
Last year, they said
Applications.
they were, but
And for what it is, I mean, it may not come to fruition until late October before we know if they're gonna do it or not, so.
But if you have it broken up into a couple projects, 5 million. 'Cause
That'd be
Well,
great.
in the strategic initiative, you won't need to have it broken into the 5 million. Again, the 5 million is STP urban program.
But I think you should,
I'd
I'd be looking at both.
I think regardless, though, it's a section of road that needs done, it would be good at least to get the engineering going on it and have it shelved, so. If we need to do something, even if we don't get funding at some point, it'd be a good joint project to just have the engineering done on.
Yeah, that's something, we could consider some type of agreement to do the engineering.
Yeah,
Right now on that whole strip. The whole
that'd be great.
But if you wanna have Tracy get a hold of me, I mean, we could come up with a kind of a scope of work or whatever and put that out to a few engineering companies and get some proposals on it.
Cause that area where is the Deb's Landing, that's right there at the end of 17th Street.
Yeah.
Are they building part of the road section there?
Yeah, they're required to rebuild the 17th, 45th
Is
intersection.
that going? I mean, the Dove's Landing, is it?
They're taking their time. They're building out the subdivision to the east of that residential, single family detached.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think when that gets fully wrapped up, I think they'll move to Dove's Landing.
But they have a development agreement to build
Yep.
all
Yep.
that stuff, right?
Exactly, so if we were to build it through a grant, that would basically let them off.
Yeah. I don't.
If we were to,
Well, couldn't we still require them to build it though? That's what I'm saying,
Yeah,
when we
we
did the engineering,
yeah,
you
we could.
just leave them to build that section, I think, still.
It gets messy when you're talking
Yeah.
about an engineered set of plans that leaves out a portion of it. So,
We could revisit their development agreement and transfer their obligation to some other place. We haven't done that before. But,
What do you mean transfer?
well, the council could, make a finding that we are paying for the road, so their contribution to the streets. They shouldn't be let off the hook. They still have some kind of impact. And there's other roads in that area that might need to be upgraded, like 17th.
It might be
Yeah, or
easier
we
to just
could
say that we have a cost estimate for this, your portion of it.
Yeah.
And when they go to develop, you pay that in lieu of, and
Yeah.
that's what kind of what the city of Idaho Falls does.
That's probably what we would do.
Devin likes those agreements anyways.
Yeah.
Maybe.
He writes them, so I'm sure he'd be okay with it.
Yeah, he's easy to work with.
Yeah, he would be fine with it. He
Yeah.
knows he needs to do it. He's told me that before
That's right.
anyways, so.
So they developed the eastern part before the western part, because the western part's very far up the street.
Yeah.
We're looking at,
Rockwell.
yeah, Rockwell, we're
And
looking
Dove's Landing.
yeah, we're looking at changing to where when they do they're required to do a master plan. And it's that time, they have to dedicate the right of way so that they can't.
Or just
put it off
Yeah.
40.
try to require all the road improvements of phase one.
That's what we're doing too. In fact, we,
Start from the outside and work back in.
that's exactly what we've done with our plats. With this one, though, that wouldn't work because it's actually two different subdivisions.
Right.
Yeah, they acquired the villas, which is the single family detached, and then they acquired Dove's Landing from two different developers.
So they haven't done anything at Dove's Landing.
Yeah, they've done almost all that.
On the east side.
Yeah. And that road.
Is that still part of the villas though, or is that?
It
Oh,
is,
that's-
well, that's that one
Yeah,
road.
so
is
they
part of
haven't
the
technically done any development in Dove's Landing.
And Dove's Landing, right, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Okay.
And they call it doesn't really matter for this discussion, but they call it Marketplace Village now.
They changed the name.
Of course they do.
Yeah, that's fine. I just,
Yeah.
oh, no, it is what it is.
Everybody knows this is Dove's Landing. Yeah.
It's just same developer.
Not
Devin,
not the original.
Yeah, not the
developer.
original, but yeah, Devin changed it from Dove's Landing to Marketplace Village.
but he's developing that whole area.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, that'd be great.
Email Trish.
A lot of
Yeah.
floodplain stuff through there too.
Yeah, which they're taken care of. The only other thing for me is, I just wanted you guys to know we've got just two more, right-of-way acquisitions on First Street. To wrap up, and then we'll be done on our portion of First Street and ready to at least bid that out, on our portion. So I don't know how you guys are doing on your side. I don't know if it's been rough. On our side, it hasn't been smooth. But it hasn't been quite as rough as I thought it would be, so we're feeling.
So they're, the right-of-way negotiator has been out there. He's had a lot of conversations with most of the parcel owners. We haven't seen any basically right-of-way contracts back here for commissioners to sign yet. So, but we should be seeing some soon, I hope.
Yeah,
Is that I noticed on our claims, there was 95,000 JEB.
No, it's not JEB, it's Horrocks Engineering
Oh,
that's working with this. And it's
He's probably 45th, I think.
JUB's 45th East.
that's what that was for, probably.
It was JOB.
Sales.
Yeah, on 45th East. And it was tying up some construction inspection and engineering for last year, so.
Okay.
That's
Where
where
are we
we
on this? Ammon Road. Widening.
we've got the plans pretty close. I mean, we could probably end up going out to bid within a month or so if we needed to. But they're kind of sitting there waiting on hold right now.
Yeah, because if the other projects aren't ready, but we want to keep going on that, because that's a lower cost.
So do you want me to do that instead of county line, or do you want me to do both of them, or do you want, well, I mean,
But the county line, you're doing engineering for probably next year,
yeah,
and this one, we're looking for what are the projects we're gonna spend money on this year?
So I can dust those plans off and have you take a
We
look at
really
it.
don't have any other things that are ready.
For this summer, yeah.
Portion of Maryland Road.
North of Lincoln.
The 3 lane.
That'd be great.
Is it just Lincoln, Iona?
No, it's up to the highway. But it's a minimal amount of widening on each side and
You gotta make it hard for you to get home.
I'm just
Turns up there.
wanting
You got to all the way
Iona
to the highway and come back.
Iona to the highway and then 45th to the or 45th to 49th on the other side. And the Iona Road project from strategic initiatives, I'll just be boxed in on both sides.
Yeah, no, that'd be good.
No, that would be a good one to get done.
And then maybe get us a cost estimate, what cost is we're project list together for the reserve.
I'll put those share together.
With our transfers,
We lose Joe.
it's interesting, but
Yeah.
the most challenging transfer we've got right now is with the school district. You were in that meeting when the board was
Transfer